Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. If today were your last day, would you be proud of how you've been living? Not the version of your life you show on social media, not the story you tell at parties, the real version, the one only you know about, the one you think about late at night when everyone else is asleep and you're alone with your thoughts. Most people go through life on autopilot. They wake up, go through the motions, keep themselves busy, and collapse into bed exhausted. They tell themselves they'll start really living someday, when they have more money, when they have more time, when things calm down, when they finally feel ready. But someday never comes. And one day, they look back and realize they spent their entire life preparing to live instead of actually living. You picked up this audiobook for a reason. Maybe you're feeling stuck. Maybe you're successful on paper but empty inside. Maybe you're tired of chasing things that don't fulfill you. Maybe you've achieved what you thought you wanted, only to ask yourself, is this all there is? Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Most of what you're chasing doesn't matter. The likes, the status updates, the perfect image, the constant comparison, the endless accumulation of things you don't need. None of it fills the void you're feeling. But there are things that do matter, things that bring real fulfillment, real peace, real meaning. And most of them have nothing to do with what society tells you to chase. This audiobook isn't about adding more to your already overwhelming life. It's about stripping away everything that doesn't matter so you can finally focus on what does. It's about 10 fundamental truths that separate people who live with purpose from people who just exist. I'm not going to promise you easy answers or quick fixes. Real transformation isn't comfortable. It requires you to look at yourself honestly, to question everything you've been taught, and to make choices that might disappoint people who expect you to stay the same. But if you're tired of feeling empty, despite having everything you thought you wanted, if you're ready to stop postponing your real life, if you're willing to do the hard work of figuring out what actually matters to you, then keep listening. Because your life is happening right now. Not tomorrow. Not when circumstances are perfect. Right now. And every moment you spend chasing the wrong things is a moment you'll never get back. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop chasing what society says you should want. You've been lied to your entire life. Not with malicious intent, but through 1,000 small messages that shaped what you think you're supposed to want. Success looks like this. Happiness requires that. A good life means having these things. And you believed it. We all did. Because when everyone around you is chasing the same things, it feels like truth. When every advertisement, every social media post, every conversation at work reinforces the same values, you stop questioning them. So you chased what you were told to chase. The degree, the job, the house, the car, the relationship that looks good to everyone else. You worked late, sacrificed weekends, stressed over promotions, and accumulated possessions. You did everything right according to the playbook you were handed. But somewhere along the way, something started feeling wrong. Not dramatically wrong, just quietly, persistently empty. You hit the milestones, but they didn't feel like you thought they would. You achieved the goals, but the satisfaction faded almost immediately. You got the things, but they didn't fill whatever was missing inside. That feeling, that's your authentic self trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you that you're living someone else's definition of a good life, that you've been so busy chasing what you should want that you never stop to ask what you actually want. Here's what nobody tells you. Society's definition of success is designed to keep you consuming, comparing, and competing. It's not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you productive and profitable, to keep you chasing the next thing, the next level, the next achievement. The problem with living by someone else's values is that no amount of success will ever feel like enough, because it's not your success, it's theirs. You're climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall, and no matter how high you climb, you'll never reach fulfillment because fulfillment doesn't live at the top of that ladder. Think about the people you actually admire, not the ones you envy or the ones who make you feel inadequate, the ones you genuinely respect and want to be like. What do they have that you want? Is it their possessions? Probably not. It's something deeper, their peace, their confidence, their authenticity, their ability to live according to their own values without apologizing for it. That's what you're actually craving. Not more stuff, not more status, but the freedom to live as yourself, pursuing what genuinely matters to you, without constantly seeking validation from people who don't even know who you really are. So how do you break free from chasing what society tells you to want? You start by getting brutally honest about what you're currently chasing and why. Take a hard look at your goals, your schedule, your priorities. How much of it is actually yours? How much of it would you still pursue if nobody ever knew about it? That question is crucial. If you wouldn't pursue something unless other people knew about it, you're not pursuing it for yourself. You're pursuing it for validation. And validation is an endless, exhausting game that you'll never win because there will always be someone with more, someone doing better, someone who seems happier. Let me tell you what actually happens when you stop chasing what you should want and start pursuing what you actually want. First, some people get uncomfortable. They'll question your choices. They'll tell you you're making mistakes. They'll project their own fears onto your decisions. Let them. Their discomfort is about them, not you. Second, you'll feel guilty. You've been programmed to feel guilty for putting your own fulfillment first, for choosing presence over productivity, for valuing experiences over achievements, for saying no to opportunities that don't align with your values. That guilt is programming, not truth. Feel it and do it anyway. Third, things will get simpler. When you stop chasing everything that looks shiny and start focusing on what actually matters to you, life becomes remarkably simpler. You have fewer goals, but they're the right goals. You have less stuff, but you value what you have. You have fewer commitments, but they're meaningful ones. The shift starts with awareness. For the next week, every time you find yourself wanting something, pause and ask, do I want this, or do I want what I think having this will make me feel? Usually, we don't want the thing. We want what we believe the thing will give us: respect, security, belonging, worth. But here's the secret. Those feelings don't come from external things. They come from internal alignment, from living according to your values, from being honest about who you are and what you care about, from having the courage to disappoint people who expect you to stay small or conventional or safe. You don't need permission to want what you want. You don't need to justify why wealth or fame or traditional success doesn't fulfill you. You don't need to prove that your definition of a good life is valid. It's valid because it's yours. Some people will understand, many won't. Some will support you, many won't. But the only person who has to live your life is you. And at the end of it, you won't wish you'd impressed more people. You'll wish you'd lived more honestly. Starting today, stop asking, "What should I want?" and start asking, "What do I want?" The answer won't come immediately. You've been conditioned to ignore your authentic desires for so long that you might not even recognize them at first. But if you keep asking, if you keep listening, your truth will emerge. And when it does, honor it. Even if it's unconventional. Even if it disappoints people. Even if it means walking away from things you've invested time and energy in. Because a life spent pursuing the wrong things is time you'll never get back. But a life spent pursuing your truth, no matter how long it takes to find it, is never wasted. Stop chasing what you should want. Start living what you actually want. That's where your real life begins. Chapter 2. Your relationships define your reality more than any achievement. Here's something that will become crystal clear when you're on your deathbed. Nobody wishes they'd worked more, achieved more, or accumulated more. But everyone wishes they'd loved better, connected deeper, and prioritized the people who mattered. You already know this intellectually. Everyone does. Yet somehow, relationships are the first thing people sacrifice when life gets busy. They cancel dinners with friends because of work. They half listen to their partner while scrolling through their phone. They tell their kids not now because they're handling something more urgent. They let friendships fade because maintaining them requires effort. And years pass, and one day they look around and realize they're surrounded by acquaintances, but desperately lonely. They've built a successful career, but their marriage is falling apart. They have everything they wanted, but nobody to share it with. They finally have time for people, but the people are gone. The brutal truth is this: you can recover from career setbacks, financial losses, and missed opportunities. But you can't recover the time you didn't spend with people who mattered. You can't go back and be present for moments you were too busy or distracted to fully experience. You can't rebuild relationships you let die through neglect. Most people treat relationships like they're optional, like they're something to fit in around the important stuff. Work is important. Goals are important. Success is important. Relationships? Those can wait. There will be time later. After this project. After this promotion. After things settle down. But things never settle down. There's always another project, another deadline, another goal. And while you're chasing those things, the people in your life are living their lives without you. They're having experiences, facing challenges, and changing in ways you're completely missing because you're not present. Here's what makes this tragic. The achievements you're prioritizing over relationships won't comfort you when life gets hard. Your job title won't hold your hand when you're scared. Your bank account won't listen when you need to talk. Your accomplishments won't celebrate with you when something good happens. People do that. But only if you've invested in them. Only if you've been there for them. Only if the relationship has been nurtured and maintained. Think about the last time you felt genuinely happy. Not proud, not accomplished, not successful, actually happy. Chances are it involved people. A conversation that made you laugh. A moment of connection that made you feel seen. An experience shared with someone you care about. That's not coincidence. Human beings are wired for connection. It's not optional for our well-being. It's essential. Yet we've created lives that systematically starve us of meaningful connection. We're always busy, always distracted, always divided between multiple screens and tasks. We're in the same room as people we love, but not actually with them. We're having conversations, but not really listening. We're spending time together, but not being present. And we wonder why we feel empty. Why success doesn't satisfy us, why we have everything we thought we wanted, but still feel like something's missing. What's missing is connection, real, deep, undivided human connection. So how do you rebuild this? How do you make relationships the priority they deserve to be when you've spent years treating them as optional? You start by getting honest about where your time actually goes. Track it for a week. How many hours did you spend working versus how many hours you spent fully present with people you care about? Not in the same room while working, not half listening while checking your phone, actually present. The number will probably disturb you. Good. Let it disturb you enough to change. Next, you need to understand something crucial. Relationships don't stay healthy through good intentions. They stay healthy through consistent investment. You can't neglect someone for months and then try to have a deep conversation and wonder why it feels awkward. Intimacy requires consistency. Trust requires presence. Connection requires time. This means you need to schedule relationship time the same way you schedule work meetings. Because if it's not on your calendar, it won't happen. Something else will always feel more urgent. Put it on your calendar. Protect it. Don't cancel it unless it's a genuine emergency. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think quality time means doing something special, going out, planning activities, making it an event. Sometimes, yes, but usually, quality time just means being fully present, putting your phone away, making eye contact, actually listening instead of waiting for your turn to talk, being there emotionally, not just physically. You know what people want more than anything: to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel like they matter to you. And you can give them that every day in small moments, by asking about their day and actually caring about the answer, by noticing when something's bothering them, by remembering what they told you last week and following up on it, by choosing them over your phone, your work, your distractions. These small moments accumulate into strong relationships. They create the foundation that allows you to weather hard times together. They build the intimacy that makes life feel rich and meaningful instead of empty and transactional. Now, let's address the hard truth. Some relationships in your life are draining you, and you need to face that. Not every relationship deserves equal investment. Some people consistently take without giving. Some create drama instead of peace. Some make you feel worse about yourself every time you interact with them. You're allowed to set boundaries with those relationships. You're allowed to reduce contact. You're allowed to end relationships that consistently hurt you. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. Because every minute you spend in toxic relationships is a minute you're not spending in healthy ones. You can't build deep connections if you're constantly drained by shallow chaos. The relationships that matter most deserve your best energy, not what's left after everyone else has taken from you. Protect them, prioritize them, show up for them. Not perfectly, but consistently. Not with grand gestures, but with steady presence. Here's something else that matters. Be vulnerable. Real connection requires vulnerability. It requires admitting when you're struggling, when you're scared, when you don't have it all together. It requires asking for help. It requires saying, "I need you," when that feels uncomfortable. Many people keep everyone at arm's length because being vulnerable feels too risky. But you know what's riskier? Going through life surrounded by people who don't really know you. Having relationships based on pretending everything's fine when it's not. Being in a room full of people and still feeling completely alone because nobody knows what's actually going on inside you. The deepest connections come from mutual vulnerability, from both people being honest about their struggles, their fears, their imperfections. That's where real intimacy lives, not in presenting a perfect image, but in being human together. Finally, understand this. Investing in relationships isn't taking time away from your success. It's the foundation of a successful life. Because success without connection is just lonely achievement. But success with strong relationships, that's fulfillment. That's meaning. That's what actually matters. Your relationships define your reality more than your achievements ever will. Years from now, you won't remember most of what you accomplished at work, but you'll remember the people you loved and who loved you back. You'll remember the moments you shared, the conversations, the laughter, the support during hard times. Make sure those memories exist. Make sure you're creating them right now, today, not someday when you're less busy. Because the people in your life won't wait forever for you to prioritize them. And the time you have with them is limited, whether you acknowledge that or not. Choose connection. Choose presence. Choose love. Not as something to fit in around everything else, but as the main thing. Because at the end of your life, that's all that will matter. The people. Always the people. Chapter 3. Peace comes from accepting reality, not changing it. You're exhausted because you're constantly at war with reality. You spend enormous amounts of energy fighting against things that have already happened, situations you can't control, and truths you don't want to face. And that resistance, that constant battle against what is, drains you more than the actual circumstances ever could. Let me show you what I mean. Something disappointing happens. Instead of accepting it and moving forward, you replay it endlessly. You imagine what you should have said, what you could have done differently, how it should have gone. You argue with reality in your mind, trying to will it into being different than it actually is. And every time you do this, you drain your energy fighting a battle you've already lost. Or you worry constantly about the future. You create elaborate scenarios of everything that could go wrong. You try to control outcomes that haven't happened yet and might never happen. You exhaust yourself trying to prevent possibilities instead of dealing with actualities. And when things do happen, they're rarely as bad as you imagined, but you've already paid the emotional price 1,000 times in advance. This is what most people do. They spend their entire lives resisting reality, wishing things were different, fighting against circumstances they can't change. And they wonder why they're always stressed, always anxious, always at war with themselves and the world. Here's what changes everything. Peace doesn't come from getting everything to be the way you want it. Peace comes from accepting things as they are and working with reality instead of against it. This doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding the difference between what you can control and what you can't, and putting your energy only into what you can actually influence. You can't control what happened in the past. You can't control what other people do, think, or feel. You can't control most external circumstances, but you can control how you respond. You can control where you focus your attention. You can control what meaning you assign to events, and that's where your power actually lies. Let me be clear about what acceptance means, because most people misunderstand it. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what's happening. It doesn't mean you approve of it. It doesn't mean you stop working to improve things. Acceptance means you stop wasting energy denying reality. You acknowledge what is, even if you don't like it, and then you deal with it from that place of truth instead of from a place of resistance. Think about how much energy you waste resisting reality. Your relationship ended, but instead of accepting that and grieving and moving forward, you keep replaying it, analyzing it, staying stuck in what if and if only. That resistance keeps the pain alive long after the relationship is ended. You didn't get the job, but instead of accepting that and looking for other opportunities, you obsess over why. You question your worth. You create stories about what it means. That resistance creates suffering that has nothing to do with not getting the job and everything to do with fighting the reality of it. Someone disappointed you, but instead of accepting that they're human and imperfect, you keep expecting them to be different, keep getting hurt by the same patterns, keep hoping they'll change. That resistance keeps you trapped in a cycle that could end the moment you accept who they actually are instead of who you want them to be. Here's the practice that changes this. When something happens that you don't like, notice your immediate impulse to resist it. Notice how your mind wants to argue with reality. Then take a breath and say, "This is what's happening. I don't like it, but this is what's real right now. What can I do from here?" That shift, from resistance to acceptance is where peace begins. You stop fighting battles that don't need to be fought. You stop carrying weights that don't need to be carried. You stop exhausting yourself with arguments nobody can win. This applies to everything. Traffic is making you late. You can stress about it, curse about it, let it ruin your morning. Or you can accept that you're going to be late and use the time to listen to something interesting. You can't change the traffic. You can change your response to it. Someone criticized you. You can spiral into self-doubt, defend yourself endlessly, obsess over their opinion. Or you can accept that not everyone will like or approve of you and move on. You can't control their perception. You can control whether you let it define you. You're aging. You can fight it with anxiety, with futile attempts to stay young, with depression over what you're losing. Or you can accept it and focus on what this stage of life offers that previous stages didn't. You can't stop time. You can choose how you experience it. The things you can't accept control you. The things you can accept lose their power over you. This is what freedom actually looks like. Not getting everything to go your way, but being at peace regardless of whether it does. Now here's where this gets deep. Most of your suffering comes from arguing with reality about how things should be instead of dealing with how things actually are. You waste enormous amounts of energy on should. This shouldn't have happened. They should have acted differently. I should be further along. Life should be easier. But should is just your opinion arguing with reality. And reality doesn't care about your opinion of how things should be. Reality simply is. The moment you accept that, the moment you stop arguing with what is, your suffering decreases dramatically. This doesn't mean you become passive. You can accept reality and still work to change it. The difference is that you're working from acceptance instead of from resistance. You're saying, this is where we are, now how do we move forward? Instead of, this shouldn't be happening, why is this happening to me? One approach is empowering. The other is victimizing. One creates momentum. The other creates stagnation. One leads to peace. The other leads to constant internal turmoil. Let me give you a practice for building this skill. Every time you catch yourself stressed or anxious, ask yourself, am I resisting reality right now? Am I fighting against something I can't change? If the answer is yes, take a breath and practice acceptance. This is what's happening. I don't like it, but this is what's real right now. What can I do from here? That shift from resistance to acceptance is where peace begins. You stop fighting battles that don't need to be fought. You stop carrying weights that don't need to be carried. You stop exhausting yourself with arguments nobody can win. This applies to everything. Traffic is making you late. You can stress about it, curse about it, let it ruin your morning. Or you can accept that you're going to be late and use the time to listen to something interesting. You can't change the traffic. You can change your response to it. Someone criticized you. You can spiral into self-doubt, defend yourself endlessly, obsess over their opinion. Or you can accept that not everyone will like or approve of you and move on. You can't control their perception. You can control whether you let it define you. You're aging. You can fight it with anxiety, with futile attempts to stay young, with depression over what you're losing. Or you can accept it and focus on what this stage of life offers that previous stages didn't. You can't stop time. You can choose how you experience it. The things you can't accept control you. The things you can accept lose their power over you. This is what freedom actually looks like. Not getting everything to go your way, but being at peace regardless of whether it does. Now here's where this gets deep. Most of your suffering comes from arguing with reality about how things should be instead of dealing with how things actually are. You waste enormous amounts of energy on should. This shouldn't have happened. They should have acted differently. I should be further along. Life should be easier. But should is just your opinion arguing with reality. And reality doesn't care about your opinion of how things should be. Reality simply is. The moment you accept that, the moment you stop arguing with what is, your suffering decreases dramatically. This doesn't mean you become passive. You can accept reality and still work to change it. The difference is that you're working from acceptance instead of from resistance. You're saying, this is where we are, now how do we move forward? Instead of, this shouldn't be happening, why is this happening to me? One approach is empowering. The other is victimizing. One creates momentum. The other creates stagnation. One leads to peace. The other leads to constant internal turmoil. Let me give you a practice for building this skill. Every time you catch yourself stressed or anxious, ask yourself, am I resisting reality right now? Am I fighting against something I can't change? If the answer is yes, take a breath and practice acceptance. This is what's happening. I don't like it, but this is what's real right now. What can I do from here? That shift from resistance to acceptance is where peace begins. You stop fighting battles that don't need to be fought. You stop carrying weights that don't need to be carried. You stop exhausting yourself with arguments nobody can win. This applies to everything. Traffic is making you late. You can stress about it, curse about it, let it ruin your morning. Or you can accept that you're going to be late and use the time to listen to something interesting. You can't change the traffic. You can change your response to it. Someone criticized you. You can spiral into self-doubt, defend yourself endlessly, obsess over their opinion. Or you can accept that not everyone will like or approve of you and move on. You can't control their perception. You can control whether you let it define you. You're aging. You can fight it with anxiety, with futile attempts to stay young, with depression over what you're losing. Or you can accept it and focus on what this stage of life offers that previous stages didn't. You can't stop time. You can choose how you experience it. The things you can't accept control you. The things you can accept lose their power over you. This is what freedom actually looks like. Not getting everything to go your way, but being at peace regardless of whether it does. Now, here's where this gets deep. Most of your suffering comes from arguing with reality about how things should be, instead of dealing with how things actually are. You waste enormous amounts of energy on should. This shouldn't have happened. They should have acted differently. I should be further along. Life should be easier. But should is just your opinion arguing with reality. And reality doesn't care about your opinion of how things should be. Reality simply is. The moment you accept that, the moment you stop arguing with what is, your suffering decreases dramatically. This doesn't mean you become passive. You can accept reality and still work to change it. The difference is that you're working from acceptance instead of from resistance. You're saying, this is where we are, now how do we move forward? Instead of, this shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening to me? One approach is empowering. The other is victimizing. One creates momentum. The other creates stagnation. One leads to peace. The other leads to constant internal turmoil. Let me give you a practice for building this skill. Every time you catch yourself stressed or anxious, ask yourself, am I resisting reality right now? Am I fighting against something I can't change? If the answer is yes, take a breath and practice acceptance. This is what's happening. I accept this is real. What's my next step? You'll be amazed how often your stress comes from resistance rather than from the actual situation. And you'll be amazed how quickly stress dissolves when you stop fighting reality and start working with it. Acceptance also applies to yourself. You're not who you wish you were. You have flaws, limitations, past mistakes, current struggles. You can spend your whole life resisting this, hating yourself for not being perfect. Or you can accept yourself as you are right now while still working to grow. Self-acceptance doesn't mean you stop improving. It means you stop torturing yourself for being human. It means you work on yourself from a place of compassion instead of self-hatred. It means you acknowledge where you are honestly instead of pretending or denying. The people who change the most are the ones who accept themselves completely, because acceptance creates the safety needed for growth. When you stop fighting yourself, you have energy to actually improve. When you accept your starting point honestly, you can chart a real path forward. Here's what happens when you practice acceptance. Life gets lighter. Not easier necessarily, but lighter. You stop carrying the weight of resistance. You stop exhausting yourself fighting battles that don't need to be fought. You have more energy for what actually matters because you're not wasting it on what you can't change. You also become more resilient. When something difficult happens, instead of falling apart because it shouldn't have happened, you accept that it did and immediately start dealing with it. You spend less time in shock or denial and more time in effective action. And paradoxically, you become more powerful because your power doesn't come from controlling external circumstances, it comes from controlling your response to circumstances. And when you accept reality as it is, you're responding from a place of clarity instead of from a place of resistance. Peace comes from accepting reality, not changing it. Accept what is, work with what you have, focus on what you can actually influence. Let go of arguing with circumstances you can't control. Stop exhausting yourself resisting the truth of your situation. This is freedom. This is peace. Not a life where everything goes your way, but a life where you're at peace regardless of whether it does. That's the peace that actually lasts. That's the peace that nothing external can take from you. That's the peace that comes from accepting reality exactly as it is. Chapter 4. Your health is the foundation everything else sits on. Let me tell you what nobody wants to hear. None of your achievements matter if you destroy your health achieving them. Your career success means nothing if you're too sick to enjoy it. Your wealth doesn't matter if you're spending it on medical bills. Your goals are irrelevant if you're too exhausted or ill to pursue them. Yet this is exactly what most people do. They sacrifice their health for everything else. They skip sleep to work more. They eat terribly because they're too busy for proper meals. They don't exercise because they don't have time. They ignore symptoms because they can't afford to slow down. They treat their bodies like machines that should perform endlessly without maintenance. And they get away with it for years, sometimes decades. Your body is remarkably resilient. It will tolerate abuse for a long time, compensating, adapting, holding it together, until suddenly it doesn't, until the years of neglect catch up all at once, until health issues that could have been prevented become chronic conditions that define the rest of your life. Here's the brutal truth. You don't realize health is everything until you lose it. When you're healthy, you take it for granted. You assume you'll always have energy, mobility, clarity. You think you can sacrifice it temporarily for other priorities and fix it later. But health doesn't work like money. You can't always earn it back once you've spent it. I've watched successful people who achieved everything they set out to accomplish, become consumed by health problems that could have been prevented. All that success becomes meaningless when you're dealing with chronic pain, disease, or disability. All those sacrifices seem foolish when you realize you traded your future well-being for present achievement. The thing is, maintaining health isn't complicated. It doesn't require extreme measures or perfect discipline. It requires consistent basics: adequate sleep, reasonable nutrition, regular movement, stress management, and preventive care. That's it. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just consistent attention to fundamentals. But these fundamentals are the first things people sacrifice. They stay up late working or scrolling. They grab fast food because cooking takes time they don't have. They sit all day because they're busy. They live in constant stress because that's just how life is. They skip checkups because nothing's wrong yet. And slowly, imperceptibly, their health deteriorates. They normalize feeling tired. They accept that they're out of shape. They medicate symptoms instead of addressing causes. They tell themselves they'll take care of it someday when they have more time. But someday never comes, or it comes too late, when the damage is already done, when fixing it requires massive effort instead of simple maintenance, when what could have been prevented becomes something you have to live with forever. Let me be absolutely clear. Your health is not something to address after you achieve your goals. Your health is the foundation that makes achieving your goals possible. Without it, nothing else works. Without energy, you can't perform at your best. Without physical capacity, you can't do what you want to do. Without mental clarity, you can't think effectively or make good decisions. Taking care of your health isn't selfish or indulgent. It's essential. It's the most practical thing you can do, because a healthy you can contribute more, achieve more, enjoy more, and handle more than an unhealthy you. Every hour you invest in your health pays dividends in every other area of your life. So what does taking care of your health actually look like? It starts with sleep. Not sleep when you're done with everything else. Prioritized, protected sleep. 7 to 9 hours consistently. Your body needs this to repair, to consolidate memories, to regulate hormones, to function properly. You can't cheat sleep long-term without consequences. Make it non-negotiable. It continues with food. Not perfect eating, not restrictive diets, just mostly whole, minimally processed foods that fuel your body properly. You don't need to be a nutritionist. You need to eat vegetables, protein, and whole grains more often than you eat processed junk. Treat your body like it matters, because it does. It requires movement. Not necessarily intense exercise, though that's great if you can do it. Just regular movement, walking, stretching, anything that keeps your body functional. We're designed to move, not to sit motionless for hours. Even small amounts of daily movement make massive differences in how you feel and function. It demands stress management. You can't live in constant fight or flight mode without wearing your body down. You need practices that help you process stress, meditation, deep breathing, time in nature, whatever actually works for you. Stress isn't optional, but how you handle it determines whether it damages you or strengthens you. And it requires preventive care, checkups, screenings, addressing small issues before they become big ones. Your car gets regular maintenance. Your body deserves at least that much attention. Don't wait until something's seriously wrong to see a doctor. Prevention is always easier than treatment. None of this is revolutionary. You already know it. But knowing and doing are different things. Most people know what they should do for their health. They just don't do it because other things feel more urgent, because health consequences feel distant and abstract, while work deadlines are immediate and concrete. But here's what makes this insidious. The consequences of neglecting your health don't announce themselves. They accumulate silently. You don't feel diabetes developing. You don't feel heart disease progressing. You don't feel your body breaking down until it's already significantly damaged. By the time you feel the consequences, you're already dealing with problems that could have been prevented. And then you spend the rest of your life managing conditions instead of maintaining health. And all those things you were too busy for suddenly become impossible because you don't have the health to do them. Think about what you want your life to look like in 20, 30, 40 years. Do you want to be vital and capable? Or do you want to be limited by preventable health conditions? Do you want to enjoy your later years? Or do you want to spend them managing illness and disability? Your choices today are creating your reality tomorrow. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up, because you still have time. Whatever damage you've done can likely be mitigated or reversed if you start now. Your body is remarkably resilient when you give it what it needs, but that resilience isn't infinite. At some point, the damage becomes permanent. Start treating your health like the foundation it is, not as something to address someday, not as something less important than your goals, as the thing that makes everything else possible, because that's what it is. Your health is the foundation everything else sits on. Without it, nothing matters. With it, everything becomes possible. Choose it, prioritize it, protect it, not perfectly, but consistently. Not someday, but starting today. Because you only get one body, and unlike your career or your bank account, you can't rebuild it from scratch if you destroy it. Take care of it now while you still can, so it can take care of you for all the years you still have left to live. Chapter 5. Most of your problems come from not knowing what you actually want. You're struggling because you don't actually know what you want. Not really. You have vague ideas about success, happiness, fulfillment. You have images in your head of what life should look like. But if I asked you to define specifically what you're working toward and why it matters to you, could you answer clearly? Most people can't. They're chasing goals they haven't examined. They want things because they're supposed to want them. They're pursuing success without defining what success means to them personally. They're working toward a future they've never actually imagined in concrete terms. And this lack of clarity creates enormous problems. You can't make good decisions if you don't know what you're deciding toward. You can't prioritize effectively if you don't know what actually matters. You can't say no to distractions if you don't have a clear yes that you're protecting. You end up reactive instead of intentional, scattered instead of focused, busy instead of purposeful. Think about your current goals. Where did they come from? Did you consciously choose them based on your values? Or did you absorb them from family expectations, social pressure, cultural messaging? Are you pursuing them because they'll make you happy? Or because achieving them will make you look successful? Most people are chasing goals that aren't actually theirs. They want the promotion because that's what you're supposed to want. They want the house because that's what success looks like. They want the lifestyle they see on social media because it looks desirable. But they never stop to ask whether these things will actually fulfill them personally. This is why people achieve their goals and feel empty. They get what they thought they wanted, only to realize it doesn't satisfy them. They check the boxes but don't feel the satisfaction they expected. They reach the destination and immediately start looking for the next one because this one didn't fill what was missing. The problem isn't that achievement is hollow. The problem is that they were chasing someone else's definition of achievement. They climbed the ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. And now they have to start over, except they're older, more tired, and more confused about what they actually want. So how do you figure out what you actually want? Not what you should want, not what looks good, what you genuinely want for your own life based on your own values. You start by getting quiet and honest. You can't figure this out in the noise of daily life, rushing between obligations, consuming constant content. You need dedicated time to think. No phone, no distractions, just you and a blank page or a long walk with your thoughts. Ask yourself questions most people never ask. What do I value most deeply? Not what should I value, but what do I actually value? What matters enough to me that I'd be willing to sacrifice for it? What do I want my life to stand for? What do I want to be true about me when I'm old and looking back? Don't rush these questions. Sit with them. Let them marinate. Your first answers will probably be surface level, the things you think you should say. Keep pushing deeper. Keep asking why. Why does that matter to you? What would having that actually give you? What are you really seeking? Here's what usually emerges when people do this work honestly. They don't actually want what they're chasing. They want what they think having those things will make them feel. They want security, belonging, freedom, meaning, peace. They want to feel valuable, capable, respected, loved. They want to matter. And they've been taught that external achievements provide those feelings. But they don't, at least not in any lasting way. Achievement might give you a temporary boost of pride or validation, but it doesn't give you sustained fulfillment. That only comes from internal alignment. Once you understand what you actually value and want, you need to ruthlessly evaluate your current path. Does what you're doing every day align with those values? Or are you spending your life on things that don't actually matter to you? This is where most people discover massive misalignment. They value family, but work 80 hours a week. They value health, but live in ways that destroy it. They value creativity, but never make time to create. They value authenticity, but spend their lives performing for others. They value freedom, but build lives that trap them in obligations. This misalignment creates the constant low-grade dissatisfaction most people live with. They're succeeding at the wrong things. They're good at what they're doing, but what they're doing doesn't fulfill them. And they can't figure out why they feel so empty despite doing everything right. Knowing what you want isn't just about goals. It's about understanding what kind of life you want to live daily. Not someday when you've achieved enough. Right now. What does a good day look like for you? What activities make time disappear because you're so engaged? What makes you feel alive versus what drains you? Most people never ask these questions. They're too busy executing on a plan they never examined to stop and consider whether it's taking them where they actually want to go. They're so focused on doing things efficiently that they never ask if they're doing the right things at all. Here's a practice that creates clarity. Imagine you have 1 year left to live. Just 1 year. What would you do differently? What would suddenly matter that doesn't seem to matter now? What would you stop doing immediately? What would you start doing that you've been postponing? Your answers reveal what you actually value versus what you think you should value. That gap between how you'd live if you had limited time and how you're actually living shows you where you're out of alignment, where you're living according to someone else's priorities instead of your own. Knowing what you want also means being honest about trade-offs. You can't have everything. Choosing one path means not choosing others. And most people stay stuck because they won't accept this. They want the benefits of every option without the costs of any option. But clarity requires choosing. It requires saying, I want this enough to give up that. It requires accepting that pursuing your values means not pursuing things that look appealing but don't align. It requires disappointing people who expect different choices from you. Once you actually know what you want, decision-making becomes dramatically simpler. Instead of agonizing over every choice, you ask, does this move me toward what I want or away from it? Does this align with my values or contradict them? Does this serve my vision or distract from it? You'll also notice that much of what you worried about stops mattering. When you're clear about where you're going, other people's opinions become less important. When you know what you're building, setbacks become temporary instead of devastating. When you understand your why, your how becomes easier. But here's the thing. What you want will evolve. Clarity isn't a one-time achievement. You'll need to revisit these questions regularly. Your values at 30 might differ from your values at 50. What fulfills you changes as you grow. Stay connected to your own truth as it evolves instead of staying attached to outdated versions of what you thought you wanted. Most of your problems come from not knowing what you actually want. Figure that out and half your problems dissolve. You stop pursuing things that don't matter. You stop being pulled in every direction. You stop feeling constantly conflicted about what you should be doing. You gain direction, purpose, peace, not because life becomes perfect, but because you're finally pursuing something that actually matters to you instead of chasing shadows of what you think you should want. Take the time to figure this out. It's the most important work you'll ever do, because you can't build a life you love if you don't know what you love. You can't pursue fulfillment if you don't know what fulfills you. You can't make good decisions if you don't know what you're deciding toward. Know what you want. Really know it. Then build your life around that instead of around what everyone else thinks you should want. That's when real living begins. Chapter 6. Time is the only resource you can't get back. Every single person on Earth gets the same 24 hours each day. Rich or poor, successful or struggling, young or old. The same 24 hours. Yet some people build extraordinary lives, while others wonder where all the time went. The difference isn't in how much time they have, it's in how they treat it. Most people treat time like it's infinite. They waste hours on things that don't matter, telling themselves they'll get serious later. They scroll mindlessly, binge-watch shows they don't even enjoy, say yes to obligations they don't care about, and generally act like they have unlimited time to eventually do what actually matters. But you don't. You have a limited, unknown number of days, and every day you waste is gone forever. You can make more money. You can rebuild relationships. You can start over in your career, but you cannot reclaim lost time. The hours you spent on things that don't matter are hours you'll never get back. This sounds obvious. Everyone knows time is finite. But knowing and living like you know are completely different. If you truly internalized that your time is limited, would you spend 3 hours scrolling social media? Would you stay in a job you hate for another year? Would you put off the trip you've been talking about? Would you waste evening after evening on entertainment that doesn't even make you happy? Probably not. But you do these things because in the moment it doesn't feel like you're wasting anything important. One evening on the couch doesn't seem significant. One day going through the motions doesn't feel like a big deal. 1 week of postponing what matters doesn't register as a loss. But those days add up. Those weeks become months. Those months become years. And suddenly, you're looking back at a decade, wondering where it went and why you have so little to show for it. Not because you weren't busy, but because you were busy with the wrong things. Here's what most people don't realize until it's too late. How you spend your days is how you spend your life. There is no separation. Your life isn't what happens when you eventually get around to living it. Your life is what's happening right now, today, in the choices you're making about how to use your time. If you spend your days doing things that don't fulfill you, working toward goals that don't matter to you, giving your time to people and activities that drain you, that's your life, not your current temporary situation that you'll escape someday. That's the life you're actually living. So you need to get serious about your time, not in an anxious, everything must be productive way, but in an intentional, this is finite and matters way. You need to start treating your time like the non-renewable resource it is. This means getting brutally honest about where your time actually goes. Most people have no idea. They think they know, but they don't. Track your time for 1 week. Write down how you spend every hour, not how you wish you spent it or how you think you spent it, how you actually spent it. The results will probably disturb you. You'll discover you spend far more time on meaningless activities than you thought. You'll see how much time vanishes into distractions. You'll notice how little time you actually dedicate to what you claim matters most. Good. Let that disturb you. Let it disturb you enough to change, because awareness is the first step toward using your time better. Once you see where your time goes, you need to make hard choices about where you want it to go instead. What deserves your limited time? What doesn't? You can't do everything, so what matters enough to make the cut? This is where most people struggle. They want to keep all their options open. They don't want to say no to anything. They want to somehow fit it all in. But trying to do everything means nothing gets your full attention. Nothing gets done excellently. Nothing gets the time it deserves. You have to choose, and choosing means eliminating. It means saying no to things that are fine but not essential. It means disappointing people who expect your time. It means accepting that pursuing what matters most requires not pursuing many other things. Think about your typical week. How much of it is spent on things you've consciously chosen versus things you've just allowed to fill the space? How much is dedicated to what you value versus what's merely urgent? How much goes to growth versus distraction? For most people, the ratio is terrifying. They give their best time to work that doesn't fulfill them. They give their remaining energy to mindless consumption. They give almost nothing to the relationships, growth, health, and experiences that actually matter. And they tell themselves they'll fix this balance later, when work calms down, when they have more money, when circumstances improve. But circumstances never improve enough to hand you time. You have to take it. You have to claim it. You have to protect it from everything and everyone trying to consume it. Here's a practice that changes everything. Before you say yes to any new commitment, ask yourself what you'll have to say no to in order to accommodate it. Because saying yes to something always means saying no to something else. Your time is zero-sum. Every hour given to one thing is an hour taken from another. Most people say yes reflexively and then wonder why they're overwhelmed. They don't consider the cost. They don't calculate what they're giving up. They just add more to an already full plate and hope it somehow works out. Stop doing this. Before you commit your time, know what you're sacrificing for it. If what you're gaining is worth more than what you're losing, fine. But usually it's not. Usually you're trading time for things that don't actually matter to you. Another critical practice is schedule your priorities before scheduling anything else. Most people fill their calendar with obligations and then try to fit what matters into whatever space remains. This is backwards. Put what matters first. Literally schedule it, then fit everything else around it. Want to exercise? Schedule it like an appointment. Want to work on your project? Block the time. Want to spend quality time with family? Put it on the calendar. Treat your priorities like the commitments they are, instead of like optional activities you'll get to if time permits. Because if you don't schedule what matters, something else will fill that time. Something less important but more urgent. Something easier but less meaningful. Something that screams for attention while what actually matters waits silently. You also need to eliminate time thieves. These are the activities that consume disproportionate time for minimal value. Social media, excessive news consumption, bad TV, toxic relationships, pointless meetings, email overload. Identify what consistently wastes your time and ruthlessly reduce it. This doesn't mean never relaxing or having fun. Rest and enjoyment are important, but there's a difference between intentional rest and mindless time wasting. One restores you, the other numbs you. One is chosen, the other is a default. Know the difference. Here's something else about time. It's easy to waste it on good things that prevent you from doing great things. Not everything that wastes your time is obviously bad. Some things are good, enjoyable, valuable even. But if they're preventing you from what's most important, they're still stealing your time. You might have friendships that are pleasant but shallow, consuming hours that could go to deeper connections. You might have hobbies that are fine but don't really fulfill you, taking up time you could spend on what genuinely matters. You might have a job that's acceptable but not purposeful, consuming the best hours of your best years. Good is often the enemy of great. And if you fill your life with good enough, you'll never have room for what could be extraordinary. The truth is, most people will reach the end of their lives with regrets about how they spent their time. They'll wish they'd worked less and lived more. They'll wish they'd taken more risks, had more adventures, expressed more love. They'll wish they'd pursued what mattered instead of what was expected. But those regrets come from thousands of small daily choices about time. Choices that don't feel significant when you make them. One evening, one weekend, 1 year of playing it safe, 1 decade of postponing what matters. You don't have to be one of those people. You can make different choices, starting today, starting with how you use the next hour, then the next day, then the next week. Small, intentional choices about time compound into a life well lived. Because here's what makes this urgent. You don't know how much time you have. You might have decades. You might have years. You might have months. None of us know. And while that uncertainty is uncomfortable, it's also clarifying. If you knew you only had 1 year left, what would you stop doing immediately? What would you start? Who would you prioritize? What would suddenly matter that you've been treating as optional? Live like that. Not in a reckless, abandon everything way, but in an intentional, this matters now way. Stop postponing what's important. Stop wasting time on what doesn't matter. Stop acting like you have unlimited time to eventually get around to living the life you actually want. You don't. None of us do. Time is the only resource you can't get back. Once it's gone forever. And how you use it determines the quality of your entire life. Treat it like it matters, because it's the only thing that actually matters. Chapter 7. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally want. You have beautiful intentions, dreams of who you want to be, goals you want to achieve, habits you want to build. You feel inspired, motivated, ready to transform. You imagine your future self living differently, looking different, being different. And in those moments of inspiration, change feels inevitable. Then Monday comes, or you get tired, or life gets busy. And instead of doing what you said you'd do, you do what you always do. You skip the workout, you eat the junk food, you waste the evening, you stay in your comfort zone. And you tell yourself, it's just this once. You'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow you make the same choice, and the day after, and the day after that, until weeks have passed and you're exactly where you started, wondering why you can't seem to change despite wanting it so badly. Here's why. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally want. Your life isn't shaped by your intentions or your inspiration. It's shaped by your daily actions, by what you do consistently, not by what you do occasionally when you feel motivated. Most people confuse wanting change with creating change. They want to be healthy, but they don't want to consistently make healthy choices. They want to be successful, but they don't want to consistently do the work. They want to grow, but they don't want to consistently push themselves. They want the result without the process, the destination without the journey, the transformation without the thousands of small daily decisions that create transformation. But that's not how human beings work. You don't become fit by occasionally working out. You become fit by consistently moving your body. You don't become successful by occasionally working hard. You become successful by consistently showing up. You don't become wise by occasionally reading. You become wise by consistently learning. Everything meaningful is built through repetition. Your habits, repeated daily, create your character. Your character, expressed consistently, creates your life. You are what you do repeatedly, not what you think about doing, not what you plan to do someday. What you actually do, day after day, whether you feel like it or not. This is both terrifying and empowering. Terrifying because it means your current habits are creating your future, whether you like that future or not. If you consistently make poor choices, you're building a life of poor outcomes. If you consistently avoid discomfort, you're building a life of limitation. But it's also empowering because it means you have complete control over who you become. You don't need to wait for the right circumstances. You don't need permission. You don't need anyone to save you. You just need to start doing differently,
consistently, until those new actions become your new normal. Think about who you are right now. Your current reality is the sum of your past actions. Where you are physically is the result of how you've consistently eaten and moved. Where you are professionally is the result of how you've consistently worked and developed skills. Who you are relationally is the result of how you've consistently treated people. Your present is your past habits made visible, and your future will be your present habits made visible. This is why changing your life requires changing your daily routine, not occasionally, consistently. Most people approach change backwards. They try to think themselves into a new way of acting. They read books, watch videos, get inspired, understand concepts, and then they wait to feel different before they act different. But feelings don't create action. Action creates feelings. You don't wait until you feel motivated to work out and then work out. You work out and then you feel motivated. You don't wait until you feel confident to take action. You take action and then you build confidence. You don't wait until you feel like a different person to act differently. You act differently and then you become a different person. This is crucial to understand. Action comes first. Identity follows. You become what you repeatedly do. So if you want to become someone different, you need to start doing what that person would do. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. Want to become a writer? Write every day, even if it's bad, even if it's just for 10 minutes. The person who writes daily is a writer. Want to become healthy? Make healthy choices daily, even small ones, even when you don't feel like it. The person who consistently makes healthy choices becomes healthy. Your identity is formed through repetition. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you're becoming. Every time you show up, you vote for being someone who shows up. Every time you quit, you vote for being someone who quits. Every single action counts. This is why what you do today matters. Not because one workout will transform your body or one healthy meal will change your health, but because that one action is a vote. It's evidence to yourself of who you're becoming, and evidence accumulates.
The problem is most people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. They want dramatic transformation through dramatic action. They want to overhaul their entire life overnight. And when that inevitably fails, they give up and go back to old patterns. But real change doesn't happen dramatically. It happens incrementally, through small decisions made consistently over time, through showing up even when you don't feel like it, through doing the boring, unglamorous work daily until it's not work anymore, until it's just who you are. James Clear calls this atomic habits, small changes that seem insignificant in the moment but compound into remarkable results over time. 1% better each day, not dramatic, but consistent, and consistency over time creates transformation. Think about your current daily routine. What are you repeatedly doing? What actions have become automatic? These habits, good or bad, are creating your future. If you don't like where you're headed, you need to change what you're repeatedly doing. This requires brutal honesty. Most people lie to themselves about their habits. They think they're healthier than they are because they occasionally make good choices. They think they're more productive than they are because they occasionally work hard. They think they're growing because they occasionally learn something. But occasionally doesn't create results. Only consistently does. Look at what you actually do most days, not what you do on your best days. That's who you really are. That's what's creating your life. If you want different results, you need different habits. Not someday, not when you feel ready. Starting now, today, with whatever the next right action is. and then again tomorrow and the next day, until it's not a choice anymore, until it's just what you do. Here's how to build lasting habits. Start smaller than you think you need to. Most people try to change everything at once. They're going to eat perfectly, exercise daily, wake up early, meditate, journal, and read for about 3 days. Then they burn out and quit. Start with one tiny habit, so small it feels almost ridiculous. Want to read more? Commit to 1 page a day. Want to exercise? Commit to 1 push-up. Want to meditate? Commit to 1 minute. The goal isn't the outcome. The goal is the consistency. The goal is showing up. Once showing up becomes automatic, you can increase the intensity. But most people never build the consistency because they're too focused on intensity. They go hard for a short time instead of going steady for a long time. And steady always wins. Another key, attach your new habit to an existing one. After I pour my coffee, I'll read 1 page. After I brush my teeth, I'll do 1 push-up. After I eat lunch, I'll walk for 5 minutes. This is called habit stacking, and it works because you're building on existing patterns instead of creating new ones from scratch. You also need to make it easy. Don't rely on motivation or willpower. Design your environment so the right choice is the easy choice. Want to eat healthier? Put healthy food where you can see it and junk food where you can't. Want to work out? Put your gym clothes out the night before. Want to read? Put the book on your pillow. Remove friction from good habits. Add friction to bad habits. Make what you want to do easier than what you don't want to do. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your motivation does. And when you slip up, which you will, don't spiral. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the beginning of a pattern. Get back on track immediately. Don't wait for Monday. Don't let one bad choice become a bad week. The faster you recover, the less damage you do. Remember, you're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be consistent. Consistency with imperfection beats perfection with inconsistency every time. The person who works out 3 times a week for a year will get better results than the person who works out daily for a month and then quits. Your life 10 years from now will be determined by the habits you build today, not by your goals, not by your intentions, by your habits, by what you repeatedly do day after day, whether you feel like it or not. You become what you repeatedly do, so choose your actions carefully. Choose who you want to become and then act like that person every single day, not perfectly, just consistently, until those actions become who you are. That's how transformation happens, not through dramatic changes or perfect execution, but through small, consistent actions repeated until they become your identity, until you're not someone trying to change, you're someone who has changed. Start today. Start small, but start and don't stop. Your future self is being created by your present actions. Make sure you're creating someone you'll be proud to become. Chapter 8. Suffering is inevitable, but meaning makes it worthwhile. Life is going to hurt. That's not pessimism, that's truth. You're going to experience loss, disappointment, failure, rejection, illness, grief. You're going to watch people you love suffer. You're going to face challenges that feel impossible. You're going to go through periods where everything feels wrong and you don't know how to make it right. This is part of being human. There's no way to avoid suffering. No amount of success, wealth, or careful planning protects you from it. Everyone suffers. The question isn't whether you'll face hardship. The question is what you'll do with it. Most people try to avoid suffering at all costs. They organize their lives around comfort and safety. They make choices designed to minimize pain. They stay in situations they've outgrown because leaving would hurt. They avoid risks because failure would be painful. They keep people at arm's length because vulnerability invites heartbreak. But this strategy doesn't work. You can't avoid suffering by avoiding life.
all you do is trade the pain of growth for the pain of stagnation, the pain of taking risks for the pain of regret, the pain of loss for the never having loved deeply. You suffer either way. The only question is whether your suffering means something. Here's what separates people who are broken by hardship from people who are strengthened by it: meaning. When suffering has meaning, when it's in service of something you value, it becomes bearable. Sometimes it even becomes worthwhile. Think about the hardest things people willingly do. Athletes endure brutal training. Parents sacrifice sleep and freedom. Students struggle through difficult education. Entrepreneurs risk everything repeatedly. Why? Because the suffering serves a purpose. It's building towards something meaningful. The same suffering without meaning is torture. Training that hard for no reason would be abuse. Sacrificing that much for nothing would be tragic. Struggling without purpose would be unbearable. The difficulty is the same. The meaning is what makes it different. This is why two people can go through similar hardships and come out completely different. One is destroyed, the other is strengthened. The difference isn't in what happened to them, it's in what they made it mean. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote that the prisoners who survived best weren't the strongest or healthiest. They were the ones who found meaning in their suffering, who connected their pain to something beyond themselves, who believed their suffering served a purpose, even if they couldn't see it yet. You have this power too. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control what you make it mean. You can let suffering break you, or you can let it build you. You can see it as meaningless pain, or you can see it as meaningful growth. This doesn't mean toxic positivity. It doesn't mean pretending pain doesn't hurt or that everything happens for a reason. Some things hurt terribly and don't have neat explanations. But even in the worst circumstances, you get to decide how you respond. You get to decide what story you tell about what you're going through. When something difficult happens, you can tell yourself, "This is proof that life is against me. Nothing ever works out. I'm unlucky. I'm a victim." That story makes you powerless. It turns suffering into evidence that you're doomed. Or you can tell yourself, "This is hard, but I can handle hard things. This will teach me something I need to learn. This is shaping me into someone stronger." That story makes you powerful. It turns suffering into growth. The circumstances are identical. The story is what changes everything. This is also why purpose matters so much. When you're living for something meaningful, you can endure almost anything. Parents endure sleepless nights because their children matter. Activists endure persecution because their cause matters. Artists endure rejection because their work matters. But when you're living without purpose, even small discomforts feel unbearable. Traffic becomes infuriating. Minor inconveniences ruin your day. Small setbacks feel catastrophic. Not because they're actually that bad, but because without meaning, there's no reason to tolerate any difficulty. This is why so many people who have everything are miserable. Their lives are comfortable, but meaningless. They've eliminated most suffering, but also eliminated purpose. And a comfortable but meaningless life is actually harder to bear than a difficult but meaningful one. So how do you create meaning from suffering? You connect it to growth. Every hardship teaches you something if you're willing to learn. Failure teaches you what doesn't work. Rejection teaches you resilience. Loss teaches you what matters. Difficulty teaches you your own strength. When you're going through something hard, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How is this making me stronger? Who am I becoming through this? These questions transform passive suffering into active growth. You also create meaning by using your suffering to help others. The pain that almost destroyed you can become the foundation for helping someone else survive similar pain. Your struggles give you wisdom. Your wounds give you empathy. Your survival gives others hope. Some of the most meaningful lives are built on transformed suffering. People who went through addiction and now help others recover. People who lost loved ones and now support the grieving. People who survived trauma and now advocate for healing. Their pain had meaning because they gave it meaning. This doesn't happen automatically. You have to choose it. You have to consciously decide that your suffering will serve something beyond itself, that it will make you more compassionate, not more bitter, more resilient, not more fragile, more understanding, not more judgmental. Here's something else that helps: perspective. When you're in the middle of suffering, it feels permanent, like this is your new reality forever. But everything passes. The pain you're feeling right now won't feel this intense in a month, a year, 5 years. Time doesn't heal all wounds, but it does change them. Looking back, you'll see that many of the things that felt devastating weren't. That you survived things you didn't think you could survive. That you're stronger than you realized. And that perspective only comes with time, but remembering it in the moment helps you endure. You also need to remember that suffering doesn't define you. You're not your pain. You're not your trauma. You're not your worst moments. Those things happen to you, but they're not you. You're the person who kept going despite them, who found strength you didn't know you had, who refused to let pain have the final word. One more thing. You don't have to suffer alone. Reaching out when you're struggling isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Other people can help carry what feels too heavy for you to carry alone. They can remind you of truth that you've forgotten. They can offer perspective you can't see from inside your pain. Isolation makes suffering worse. Connection makes it bearable. Don't try to be strong enough to handle everything alone. Be strong enough to ask for help when you need it. Suffering is inevitable. You can't avoid it. You can't prevent it. You can't control when it comes or how long it stays. But you can control what you make it mean. You can choose to let it build you instead of break you. You can choose to find meaning in it instead of being destroyed by it. When you're going through something hard, remember, this matters. How you respond to this matters. What you choose to become through this matters. Your pain has meaning if you give it meaning. And years from now, when you're on the other side of this, when you survived what you're not sure you can survive right now, you'll look back and realize something profound. That you're not the same person you were before this happened. That the suffering changed you. And if you handled it well, it changed you for the better. It made you stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more resilient, more understanding. It taught you what actually matters. It showed you who truly cares. It revealed strength you didn't know you had. And that meaning, that growth, that transformation made the suffering worthwhile. Not easy, not pleasant, not something you'd choose, but worthwhile. And that makes all the difference.
Chapter 9. The people who love you deserve your presence, not your perfection. You're so busy trying to be impressive that you forget to be present. So focused on appearing successful that you're not actually connecting. So worried about being perfect that you're not being real. And the people who love you are starving for the real you, not the impressive version. Think about the people you care about most. Your partner, your children, your closest friends, your parents. When was the last time you were fully present with them? Not physically present while mentally elsewhere. Actually present. Undivided attention, no phone, no agenda, no performance, just you and them and nothing else. For most people, the answer is sobering, because we've normalized being together but not actually being with each other. We're in the same room but on different screens. We're having conversations but thinking about other things. We're spending time together but not truly connecting. And we tell ourselves, it's fine. We're together, aren't we? We're showing up. We're doing our best. But proximity isn't presence. Being in the same location isn't the same as being emotionally available. And the people you love can feel the difference. They can feel when you're checked out, when your attention is divided, when you're going through the motions without actually engaging. They feel it, and it hurts, even if they don't say anything. Because what they want from you isn't perfection, it's presence. They don't need you to have everything figured out. They don't need you to be successful or impressive or perfect. They need you to be there, actually there, present, available, connected. But most people reverse this. They give their presence to work, to strangers, to screens, and give their loved ones the leftovers, the tired version, the distracted version, the impatient version. They save their best energy for people who matter less and give the scraps to people who matter most. Why? Because with loved ones, we feel safe enough to let our guard down, safe enough to not try, safe enough to be distracted because they'll still be there tomorrow. We take them for granted because we assume they always will be there. But they won't. Not forever. Everyone you love will eventually be gone. And when they are, you won't wish you'd been more impressive around them. You'll wish you'd been more present. You'll wish you'd put the phone down. You'll wish you'd really listened. You'll wish you'd been there, actually there, more often. This is one of the most common deathbed regrets. Not, I wish I'd worked more, or I wish I'd been more successful, but I wish I'd been more present with the people I loved. I wish I'd really seen them, really heard them, really connected. Don't wait until it's too late to figure this out. Don't let the people you love spend years feeling like they're competing with your phone, your work, your distractions for your attention. Don't make them beg for what they deserve freely, your presence. Here's what presence actually means. It means when you're with someone, you're fully with them. Your phone is away. Your mind isn't on work. You're not mentally planning your next task. You're there, listening, engaging, connecting. It means eye contact. It means listening to understand, not just waiting for your turn to talk. It means asking questions and caring about the answers. It means noticing what's unsaid as much as what is said. It means being emotionally available, not just physically present. Most people are terrible at this because we've trained ourselves to be constantly distracted. We can't sit through a meal without checking our phones. We can't have a conversation without our minds wandering. We can't be still and present for more than a few minutes before we feel restless. But this skill, the ability to be fully present, is one of the most valuable things you can develop, not just for others, but for yourself. Because when you're fully present, you actually experience your life. When you're constantly distracted, life passes you by while you're mentally elsewhere. Your children are growing up right now. Your parents are aging right now. Your relationships are being shaped right now. And if you're not present for it, you're missing it. You can't get these moments back. You can't go back and really listen to the story you half heard. You can't reclaim the dinner where you were there, but not there. So how do you become more present? You start by making it a priority. You decide that when you're with people you love, they get your full attention. No exceptions, no phones, no distractions, no divided attention, just presence. This feels uncomfortable at first because you're so used to partial attention. Your brain will want to check your phone, you'll think of things you need to do, you'll feel restless, but push through that discomfort. It's just withdrawal from constant stimulation. It passes. You also need to slow down.
Presence is impossible when you're rushing. When you're always thinking about the next thing, you can't be here for this thing. So slow down. Let conversations unfold naturally. Don't rush through moments. Let them breathe. Ask better questions. Not, "How was your day?" which gets automatic answers, but "What was the best part of your day? What was the hardest part? What are you thinking about lately?" Questions that require real answers. Questions that show you actually care. And then listen. Really listen. Don't interrupt. Don't immediately try to fix things. Don't wait for your turn to talk. Just listen with your full attention. Most people just want to be heard. That alone is a profound gift. Notice things. Notice when something's bothering someone. Notice when they're excited about something. Notice changes in mood, energy, behavior. Noticing is a form of love. It says, "I see you. I'm paying attention. You matter enough to me that I notice." Put your phone away. Seriously. When you're with people you love, put it in another room. Don't just flip it face down on the table where you can still see it light up. Remove it completely. This single action will dramatically improve your ability to be present. And here's something important. Presence doesn't require long periods of time. You don't need hours. You need quality. 10 minutes of full presence is worth more than hours of distracted proximity. 5 minutes of real connection beats a whole evening of being together but not actually connecting. What matters isn't how much time you spend together. What matters is whether you're actually there when you are together. Whether the people you love feel seen, heard, and valued. Whether they feel like they matter to you or like they're just another item on your to-do list. The people who love you can tell the difference. They know when you're mentally elsewhere. They feel the lack of connection even if they can't articulate it. And over time, that lack of presence damages relationships more than you realize. People don't leave relationships because of one big failure. They leave because of 1,000 small moments of not being seen, not being heard, not being valued. They leave because they're tired of competing for attention, tired of feeling like an interruption in your life rather than a priority. Don't let this happen. Don't sacrifice your most important relationships on the altar of busyness and distraction. Don't give strangers and screens more presence than you give the people who actually matter. You don't need to be perfect for the people you love. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to always say the right thing or never make mistakes. You just need to be there, really there, present, available, connected. That's what love actually looks like. Not grand gestures or impressive achievements, but consistent presence, showing up, paying attention, being there when it matters and when it doesn't, making people feel like they matter to you because they do. Starting today, be more present. Put the phone away. Make eye contact. Really listen. Notice. Care. Connect. Not perfectly, but genuinely. The people who love you will feel the difference. And years from now, you'll be grateful you made this choice. Grateful you were there for the moments that mattered. Grateful you showed up as yourself, imperfect but present. Because presence is the greatest gift you can give another person. And the people who love you deserve your presence far more than they deserve your perfection. Chapter 10. The life you actually want is on the other side of the excuses you keep making. You know exactly what you need to do. Deep down, you know what would change your life, what would make you happier, healthier, more fulfilled. You know what you need to start doing and what you need to stop doing. You know what conversations you need to have, what risks you need to take, what changes you need to make. But you're not doing any of it. Instead, you're making excuses, very reasonable sounding excuses, very convincing excuses. Excuses that make staying exactly where you are seem completely justified. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have support. I don't have energy. I don't have the right skills. I don't have the perfect plan. The timing isn't right. The circumstances aren't perfect. It's too hard. It's too risky. It's too late. I'm too old, too young, too inexperienced, too damaged. These excuses sound valid. They sound like real obstacles, and maybe some of them are. But here's the truth you don't want to hear. They're not what's actually stopping you. Fear is what's stopping you. And you're using these excuses to avoid facing that fear. Because change is scary. The unknown is scary. Failure is scary. Success is scary. Being seen is scary. Being rejected is scary. So your brain, which is designed to keep you safe, creates very logical-sounding reasons why now isn't the right time, why this isn't the right path, why you should wait just a little longer. And you believe these excuses because believing them feels safer than taking action. Staying where you are feels safer than moving toward the unknown, even if where you are is making you miserable. At least it's familiar misery. But here's what happens when you believe your excuses. Nothing. You stay exactly where you are. Months pass, years pass, and that life you want, that change you need, that person you could become, stays on the other side of the excuses you keep making. Think about your current life. What are you tolerating that you don't want to tolerate? What are you avoiding that you know you should address? What dreams have you put on hold indefinitely? What version of yourself are you not becoming because you're too busy explaining why you can't? And now think about the excuses you've made. Have they moved you forward? Have they improved your situation? Or have they just given you permission to stay stuck? Excuses don't protect you. They imprison you. They keep you small and safe and stuck. They let you avoid the discomfort of growth while ensuring you'll never experience the fulfillment of becoming who you're capable of being. The life you actually want isn't going to fall into your lap. It's not going to show up when circumstances are perfect. It's not going to happen when you're ready, because you'll never feel ready. The life you want is on the other side of taking action, despite the excuses, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty. Every person who's ever achieved something meaningful had the same excuses you have, the same doubts, the same fears, the same lack of perfect circumstances. The difference is they did it anyway. They took action despite not being ready. They started before they felt prepared. They moved forward with imperfect information and unclear paths. Because here's what you learn when you stop making excuses and start taking action. You're more capable than you think. The obstacles you've been focused on aren't as insurmountable as they seem. The thing you've been avoiding isn't as hard as you imagined. And even when it is hard, you can handle it. But you only learn this by doing, not by planning to do it someday, not by waiting for perfect conditions. By doing it now, imperfectly, scared, uncertain. That's where growth happens. That's where transformation happens. That's where you discover who you actually are, instead of who you think you might be. So let's dismantle the most common excuses. I don't have time. You have time. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. What you mean is, you haven't made this a priority. If it truly mattered, you'd find the time. You'd make the time. You'd stop spending time on things that matter less. Stop saying you don't have time. Say, this isn't a priority for me right now, and see how that feels. I don't have money. Money is rarely the real obstacle. It's the excuse you use to avoid trying. Most meaningful changes don't require much money. They require commitment. And when something truly matters, you find a way. You start small. You get creative. You make it work. Stop letting money be your excuse for not pursuing what you want. I'm not ready. You'll never feel ready. Ready is a feeling you get after you start, not before. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll wait forever. Start before you're ready. Learn by doing. Figure it out as you go. That's how everyone else did it too. It's too late. It's not too late until you're dead. As long as you're alive, you can change. You can grow. You can become someone different. Yes, you lost time. Yes, you wish you'd started earlier, but you didn't. You can't change that. You can only decide what you do from here. I might fail. You might. Probably will at first. So what? Failure isn't fatal. It's educational. Every successful person failed repeatedly. The only real failure is not trying because you're afraid to fail. That's guaranteed failure. At least trying gives you a chance. People will judge me. They will. People judge everything, but their judgment says more about them than about you. And the opinions of people who aren't living your life don't matter. Stop organizing your life around the potential judgments of people who don't matter. I don't know how. Nobody knows how at first. You learn by starting, by trying, by failing and adjusting. You don't need to know how to do the whole thing. You just need to know enough to take the next step. Then the next step reveals itself. Stop waiting to know everything before you start anything. Do you see the pattern? Every excuse is just fear dressed up as logic. Every reason why you can't is just a reason why you're scared to try. And as long as you believe these excuses, you stay stuck. As long as you let fear masquerade as logic, you don't move forward. But here's what changes everything. Action. Not perfect action, not fearless action, just action. Despite the excuses, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, you take one step, then another, and something remarkable happens. The excuses lose their power. The fear doesn't disappear, but it stops controlling you. The obstacles that seemed impossible start looking manageable. The thing you've been avoiding for months or years suddenly becomes something you're actually doing. This doesn't mean it's easy. It means it's possible. And possible is all you need. The life you want is waiting for you. The person you're capable of becoming is waiting for you. The happiness, fulfillment, and peace you're seeking are all waiting for you. But they're on the other side of the excuses you keep making. Stop making excuses. Start making progress. The life you want is waiting. Go get it.
Conclusion. Your life is happening now. You've listened to all 10 chapters. You've absorbed the concepts. You understand intellectually what matters and what doesn't. You know what you should change. You know what you should start doing. You know what you should stop doing. But understanding changes nothing. Only action changes things. And the difference between people who transform their lives and people who just think about transforming their lives is this: action. Consistent, imperfect, sometimes uncomfortable action. Everything we've covered comes down to simple truths that you already knew but needed to be reminded of. Stop chasing what you think you should want and start living what you actually want. Stop sacrificing relationships on the altar of achievement. Stop fighting reality and start accepting what is. Stop neglecting your health like it's optional. Stop avoiding the hard work of figuring out what you actually want. Stop treating time like it's infinite. Stop waiting to feel motivated and start building habits. Stop resisting suffering and start finding meaning in it. Stop performing for people you love and start being present with them. Stop making excuses and start taking action. These aren't complicated, but they're not easy either, because they require you to change, to let go of comfortable patterns, to face uncomfortable truths, to make hard choices, to disappoint people who expect you to stay the same. But here's what you need to understand. Your life is happening now, not someday, when you finally get around to living it. Right now, this moment, today. This is it. This is your life. And every day you postpone living according to what actually matters is a day you'll never get back. You don't have unlimited time to figure this out. None of us do. And the tragedy isn't that people die. It's that so many people never truly live. They spend their whole lives preparing to live, planning to live, meaning to live, but never actually living. Don't be one of those people. Don't reach the end with regrets about what you didn't do, who you didn't become, how you didn't live. Don't waste your precious, limited time chasing things that don't matter or avoiding things that do. You have one life, one chance to figure out what matters to you and build your days around it. One opportunity to become who you're capable of being. One shot at creating a life you're proud of instead of one you're just going through. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep doing what you've been doing, hoping somehow that produces different results? Or are you going to make different choices, take different actions, become a different person? The choice is yours. It's always been yours. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not powerless to change. You are not stuck unless you choose to stay stuck. You have everything you need to start right now. Not to finish, not to do it perfectly, just to start. To take one step toward the life you actually want instead of the life you've settled for. What's that step for you? What's the one thing you could do today that would move you closer to what actually matters? Not the 10 things, not the perfect plan, the one next thing. Do that. Then tomorrow, do the next one. Small, consistent steps in the right direction will take you further than big plans you never execute. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself. Start now. Messy, imperfect, uncertain. Start! Because a year from now, you'll either be essentially where you are now, still making the same excuses and experiencing the same dissatisfaction, or you'll be somewhere completely different, amazed at how much changed when you finally stopped waiting and started living it. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll look back at this moment, this exact moment right now, and you'll either think, that's when everything changed. That's when I finally stopped postponing my real life and started living it. Or you'll think, I wish I'd started then. I wish I hadn't waited. Which will it be? Your life is happening now, not someday, now. What actually matters isn't abstract or complicated. It's simple and immediate. The relationships right in front of you, the health you're either maintaining or destroying, the time you're either investing or wasting, the person you're either becoming or avoiding becoming. It all comes down to this: how will you spend today? Will you spend it on what actually matters, or will you spend it on what's easy, comfortable, habitual, but ultimately meaningless? That choice, made day after day, is your life, not your intentions, not your plans, your actual daily choices. Those choices are creating your future right now, whether you're paying attention or not. So pay attention. Be intentional. Choose deliberately. Live like your life actually matters, because it does. It's the only one you'll ever have, and it's happening right now. Make it count.